Hello and welcome to my presentation on microplastics in our oceans. Here I'll be taking an extensive look at this important topic, but first let's talk about seafood. Now, who doesn't love seafood? You've got your lobsters, oysters, and plenty of other marine life to turn to for your consumption needs. However, do you like to eat plastic? I'm assuming no. Now, while I'm sure the issue of plastics in the ocean has been talked about to death, the focus of this video is on the subtopic of microplastics, which are introduced into marine life through humans. Overall, by looking at microplastics, we can identify the human impact on marine life and on humans themselves. But first, how does this microplastic system work? Well, the process starts by having plastic waste swim around near the top of the ocean, which will then degrade into much smaller pieces over time and descend into the ocean. Then those small pieces will be consumed by fish species like oysters because of the small particles that they can digest. Then when we catch oysters by fishing, we eat the oysters that contain the bits of microplastics, which will then go into our body. And before we get to the topic of humans being impacted by their own microplastics, let's discuss the impact of human-made microplastics on marine life, which can actually be related to our present society. Now, in these pictures, these are face masks that people wore to protect themselves from COVID-19 in both Nigeria and Hong Kong. However, these masks were obtained from terrestrial or land environments while also being found in an ocean environment. Now, since humans have disposed of their face masks in an inappropriate manner, these face masks, which are made up of polymers that are plastics, can break down in the environment when they are under certain environments. Then, fish will come and eat those small plastic particles that are broken down from the face mask because they are the right size for these fishes to eat. As for the impacts of microplastics on marine life, we could take a look at this graph to identify what happens to some types of marine life, but we're going to focus on oysters. In this graph, when oysters consume microplastics, they, they have a change in their reproduction levels, and they also have a change in their feeding levels, which will lead to a impact on their population as it declines because of also them having reduced offspring levels because of eating microplastics. And I'm not going to read this whole section. I just wanted a picture of the article I read and show that through research conducted by the University of Queensland, it was identified that microplastics were found in not only oysters, but a high amount of plastics were also found in sardines. And if we could see that microplastics can negatively impact marine life like oysters and have a high presence in sardines, what are they doing to us when we eat fish with microplastics? Well, by looking at the Queensland research, the question over whether or not microplastics are harmful for humans still needs to be determined with further research. However, it should be made clear that microplastics are also found in water bottles, beer, honey, and sea salt, which plenty of us use. While further research needs to be conducted, eating microplastics doesn't sound appealing, and who knows what negative aspects are involved with consuming them until that research is determined. Now, we can identify that between the years 1961 and 2017, we can see an increase in fish and seafood consumption throughout the world, with China, Iceland, Russia, and Indonesia consuming plenty of seafood. And it should be worrisome that these countries are eating oysters and other types of fish, considering the microplastic issue. And it's also worth noting that seeing that there's an increase in this consumption over time identifies the fact that seafood eaters consume microplastics that have who knows what impact they have on us. And overall, the issue of microplastics is important to be aware of because not only do they negatively impact marine life like oysters, but they are an object that we also digest into our system, which we currently have no idea as to what long-term effects there are to consuming it. And even if you're not an avid seafood consumer, present party included, microplastics are in products like sea salt and water bottles. Now, the microplastic issue isn't one that's going to end the world and it's not going to be solved overnight, but we can identify the negative aspects associated with microplastics and try to decrease their presence in our oceans. With marine species like oysters having reproduction issues, as well as seeing that sardines, crabs, and other types of and other fish species have amounts of microplastics in them, it should be concerning that we eat these species with plastic pieces inside of them, which we ironically caused by creating plastic goods in the first place. And these are the three academic sources that I talked about. But thank you for watching my 5-minute presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.